everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk Physical Media. This is the weekly news show where you guessed it, we talk about all the news in the world of physical media, and we also have some pretty big movie news that we'll get to at the end of this video, but we always like to start it off with the physical media news. And it wasn't the busiest news week in the world, but hey, our video gave us their September 2025 announcements. You know, a little bit of a slow month for them. Maybe they're getting prepped up for October, which is spooky season. You know, we start to get into like the horror season, so Creepshow 2 was announced for 4K Blu-ray. That's perfect for spooky season. And one thing I have to point out just right out of the gate with the Creepshow 2 4K Blu-ray is that it's the same exact artwork. Everything is exactly the same except for the upgrades to the visuals and audio. And I wouldn't have even noticed that if it wasn't for my buddy Frank from Frank's Media Reviews, the legend that he is, just an all-around great guy. He pointed that out because he has the previous release of Creepshow 2 on Blu-ray. Even the comic book is exactly the same. No new special features. Even though I'm excited just because I don't have Creepshow 2 in my collection yet. I already have Creepshow on 4K Blu-ray from Scream Factory, which is a stunning 4K, so Creepshow 2 definitely has some big shoes to fill, but this is definitely a little bit disappointing. Thank you, Frank, for pointing that out, because I would have never noticed that. And that's something I would expect from, like, the Criterion Collection, and I gotta point that out when they do that as well. And as much as I love Arrow Video, you know, that is the lazy route to go. I wish they would just make some little changes so the people who have the previous edition, you know, they get something new other than the visual and audio upgrades, just so that, hey, maybe we want to keep both editions on the shelves. If you give different artwork, that might sway some people. That's what I'm doing with my Jurassic Park 4K Blu-rays. Even though I have the previous releases of them, there's no way I'm ever going to watch those again because there is an upgrade to the new 4K Blu-rays. But I love the artwork that Universal did on those fat boxes, so I'm going to hold on to that just because I am a fan. And it does take a lot. I'm not somebody who's like really in love with artwork necessarily to the point where I got to keep every single edition. But if you give me some good artwork for some of my favorite films, I'll definitely hold on to them. Look at Terminator 2 on 4K Blu-ray. I never even watched the 4K Blu-rays, but yet I have 2 editions of it. They just know my love for the Terminator. So, of course, that's how that works. But Creepshow 2, unfortunately, I did take the lazy route here. But still love you, Arrow Video, because they also gave us Lost in Space, which is not a movie I love from the 1990s. But I guess if you love Deep Blue Sea, it's the same people who made that, so you'll probably love Lost in Space. Not my kind of movie from the 1990s, but hey, I'm really glad to see this getting the 4K Blu-ray treatment. It's got nice artwork on there, so I know people will be happy with this one. The other 4K Blu-ray is going to be American Gigolo, directed by Paul Schrader, starring Richard Gere. I already have this morbidly obese box from Arrow Video. It was already released in the United States and I think Canada as well, but now the UK will get this as well. So I have a full review for this. It doesn't look like there's any difference. It's just that now you'll be able to buy it in the UK. Exactly the same artwork, so if you guys want to check out my review, I remember saying that this is a very good 4K Blu-ray. The best way I would say is if you like the quality, the visual and audio quality of Witness, I think you'll like the visual and audio quality of American Gigolo. I think they tried to maintain a certain softer look that might not, appeal to everybody, but it definitely appealed to me. It really fit what I thought was 1981 in my mind. Was it 1980 or 1981? Either way, very early 1980s. I like the look they maintained, but that might disappoint some people. Won't disappoint the grain lovers, I can guarantee that. And then the other announcements were Daydream on Blu-ray for the UK, The Woods for the UK on Blu-ray as well, Hellbender for the US and Canada on Blu-ray, and then Proof of Man, which is a limited edition Blu-ray as well for the US and Canada. Oh, and the UK. That one's a new edition for the UK, US, and Canada. So a lot of Blu-rays as well. I would say it's a little bit of a down month, in my opinion, for our video. That's fine. My wallet will be happy about that. But, you know, I thought maybe we'd get some more spooky season options. But, hey, I'm still very happy with that. Speaking of spooky season, the Conjuring 4K Steelbook that we talked about last week did receive an upgrade. I kind of expected that just because I didn't think that the artwork was that great on the one that they announced on Groove already, but I thought it was placeholder art. Luckily, it was. Now the exterior artwork for The Conjuring does look pretty good. Still pretty simple, but hey, I can't wait. I think this has a new Dolby Atmos track, so I'm very excited to check out The Conjuring on 4K Steelbook. And speaking of Steelbooks, this one might be bad news for us, but The Mask was announced. Now, this was rumored. The Mask from 1994, one of my favorite films from the 1990s, starring Jim Carrey. Love this movie. You guys know that. I've praised it ever since I started the channel. Well, it's not getting a 4K Steelbook upgrade, but it is getting a brand new Steelbook from Warner Brothers UK, and I don't know. This could be a bad sign or it could be a good sign. If this sells well, maybe Warner Brothers will be like, hey, We hold the rights to this. People seem to like it. Let's give them the 4K Blu-ray they want, because The Mask will translate so well to the 4K Blu-ray. But unfortunately, this is just a re-release of the previous release Blu-ray. Honestly, it's just a complete and utter cash grab. The steelbook's kind of nice. You know, the artwork, you know, it's very busy, but I kind of like it. So it's something I would like. I'm never going to grab it. I want them to make a 4K Blu-ray of this film, but hey, it doesn't look like that's in the cards anytime soon. But we're lucky we're getting Ace Ventura in July, and if that sells well, maybe we'll be fortunate enough for The Mask to have their rights sent over to Shout Factory so that they can make the 4K Blu-ray for The Mask. We'll have to just wait and see. My fingers are crossed on this one. One thing that got announced late last week, right before I filmed this video, was that the Pusher Trilogy, Nicholas Winding Refn's trilogy of movies that he did from 1996 to 2005. I don't actually have these in my collection, but Second Sight will be bringing those to 4K Blu-ray in August as well in their collector's edition box. These films are beloved. They are great. So if you're somebody who's a fan of like Neon Demon or Drive here in the United States, if you want to see what he was doing before that and kind of see where his style like really originated, I would definitely check out that trilogy of movies. I assume there will be a standard edition as well, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I only saw the Morbidly Obese boxes that Second Sight does. Love those. They look great. They always have great collector's editions, so not entirely sure if we'll be fully getting this standard edition yet, but it is Second Sight. Usually they do that, and usually those are the editions that I grab because I'd like to save a little bit of money when I can. And then the last bit of physical media news we got is But I'm a Cheerleader will be coming to 4K Blu-ray from Lionsgate as well in one of their beautiful editions, but this isn't a Lionsgate limited release. I think this is one you can get on Amazon. I'm just really glad that that's going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. It's actually a film that I've never seen, but the artwork is beautiful, and if someone tells me it's pretty good and I should check it out, maybe I will, but I'm definitely really excited that Lionsgate is still putting out these beautiful 4K steelbooks that aren't just exclusive to their website. You know, certain films are. I think they do like 2 a month. I'm pretty sure next month, like we talked about, will be Daybreakers and Jacob's Ladder, which I'm really excited about, Jacob's Ladder. And obviously we have Frailty coming out in the middle of July. Really keeping these movies that maybe not aren't the most known films alive. And obviously But I'm a Cheerleader is one of those films. And that's really it as far as the physical media news, but there is some film news I want to get into. This week it was announced that Denis Villeneuve will be the next director of the next James Bond film. You know, this is the one that Amazon is going to be doing. I'm really excited about that. You know, we couldn't get Christopher Nolan. This is a great follow-up for a guy who knows how to make great blockbusters. You know, he's the guy who just gave us the last 2 Dune movies, Sicario, Arrival. I also really love Prisoners. You know, the only thing I can think about with this is it feels like we're going to get more of the Daniel Craig kind of movies, the more serious James Bond movies, where I kind of wanted to go back a little bit. We've spent so many years. It was 20 years now. It's been 20 years since Casino Royale. I would have been fine if we kind of went back and we had like a little bit more of the humor built in there. I just don't think we're going to have as much as that. We're not going to really get like Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan. We're going to probably get more in line with Timothy Dalton and Daniel Craig, if I had to guess, with Denis Villeneuve directing. Now, again, that's all just a guess. I know that these movies are going to be produced phenomenally. They're going to look great. Great costume design, great production design. You know, they're going to really throw everything at the wall with this one. So we're definitely in good hands. It's just, it's not necessarily the Bond I was thinking we would get. But again, I'm just completely speculating. This could end up being one of the best James Bond films of all time. In fact, that's probably what I'm expecting, is one of the best James Bond films of all time, because when you get a world-class director in the director's chair like Denis Villeneuve, then I know that at least we're in good hands. He seems to care about James Bond. That's all we could ever ask for. You know, if we couldn't get Christopher Nolan, like, even for me, that was number 1 on the list. To get Denis Villeneuve, that is great as well. Very similar directors, which is, of course, I guess what Amazon was looking for. You know, it's almost like 1A and 1B when it comes to Denis Villeneuve and Christopher Nolan. They just know how to put these beautiful films on the big screen. Even if you don't love necessarily their stories, you can at least appreciate everything that went into this film. They put everything that they got on the big screen. Like Blade Runner 2049, that is one of the most beautiful looking films I have ever seen. It did not deserve to fail. So I'm pretty excited about this one. We'll just have to wait and see. Glad we got a director, but who's going to be playing James Bond? That's the next big question. And I imagine now that we got a director, we'll find out in the next couple of months who our next James Bond is, which I'm really excited about. The other film news we got this week is that, of course, we are going to finally be getting that follow-up to The Social Network, 2010's probably best film starring Jesse Eisenberg, and it was directed by David Fincher. Now, the thing is, it was written by Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin himself is a very good director, but he's mostly known for being a great writer. All the way back to A Few Good Men, this guy was writing just great scripts. He knows, if you know his dialogue, you know his dialogue. He's just very good about it. Sometimes he teams up with other directors like Danny Boyle and Steve Jobs, but then, of course, he directs his own films like Molly's Game or The Trial of the Chicago 7. So sometimes when he's a director, though, I don't think it works as well as when he's a writer. So a lot of people, when they saw The Social Network 2 get announced, they thought, oh, David Fincher's coming back. No, 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 no. The Social Network 2 will be written and directed by Aaron Sorkin, which is pretty cool. You know, obviously a lot's happened with Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook in the 15 years since the original Social Network, so it's a good follow-up. Jesse Eisenberg is not confirmed to be back yet, but, you know, we're excited that this film is coming. But I was a little bit let down when I saw that David Fincher isn't going to be directing this film. And weirdly enough, David Fincher can't direct this film because he's directing another director's sequel who the director isn't coming back for. And that's the Cliff Booth follow-up for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. David Fincher is directing that with Brad Pitt because Quentin Tarantino isn't coming back for that one. So in a weird chain of events, we're getting these sequels, but the sequels aren't being done by their original directors. And yet David Fincher is involved in both of these films. So it's just a weird set of circumstances that kind of happened here. I would really like David Fincher to come back for The Social Network 2, just because his style, that is so much a David Fincher film. Like, people might not think that. I think when you try and tell people the Facebook movie, they just kind of get turned off. I always tell people, like, you like Seven, right? You like Fight Club. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. You like that style, right? That style's in The Social Network. Now, nothing against Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin, like I just said, one of the best writers ever. You know, his directing style, I don't think it's David Fincher's directing style. Not many directing style is David Fincher's. I was already a little conflicted with the Cliff Booth movie being a David Fincher movie because David Fincher, I can't imagine his style translating into what a Quentin Tarantino universe would be. They're very different directors, and all three of those directors are very different directors. So to see two other directors taking over the projects of other directors, I don't know, it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, even though I am excited that we are getting The Social Network 2. I think that film should exist because so much has happened with Facebook in the 15 years. It's just, I wanted to bring back the entire team for the first one. I am excited for that Cliff Booth movie, even though I thought they could have left that alone as well. You know, that's one where it feels a little bit like a cash grab from Netflix, but hey, you got Brad Pitt, David Fincher, people who I know want to create good films, so, you know, I have some high hopes. It's just, it's a little bit weird how this is going, and unfortunately, you know, IP sells, so sequels just sell. Like, look what happened last week with Pixar and Elio. That movie should not have bombed like it did, but unfortunately, just original films do not do well in the market anymore. I hate to see it. You know, Sinners, you know, that's like the one people are going to always go point to. Sinners did well. Yeah, you know, that was like, unfortunately, the outlier. That's the minority here. We're lucky that Sinners did well. For the most part, people see Superman coming out, Fantastic Four coming out. Those movies will make money because they're known IPs. And theaters are so expensive to get people to go. They're only going to go if they know it's a movie that they want to see. They're not going to take a risk. Like, me and you are going to take risks, but that's because we love movies. We're going to see every movie out there. So we're willing to set aside the extra money for what is our favorite hobby. Everybody else who, like, goes to the movies casually, they're not going to go spend their money on a movie, unfortunately, that they don't know. Now, Pixar's name, unfortunately, has been completely devalued thanks to putting all of their movies on Disney Plus for the last 5 years. They don't realize that. The only movies that are for Pixar that have done good, again, are known IP. And people didn't know what to make of that movie because Pixar, you know, you've trained people. Disney and Pixar have trained people to know that their movies will be on Disney Plus pretty soon. So if they're not sold on it, like Lilo and Stitch, which is a remake, like those movies, again, built-in IP. Disney, who used to just be known for creating these beautiful worlds, unfortunately is lost in the weeds here, and they're definitely just going to double down and keep giving us sequel after sequel. I think I just saw, again, that Ratatouille 2 was in development. God, I really fucking hope not, but unfortunately, that's kind of what the movie business is. You know, come on, get out there and support original films if you can. I get it, though, man. The world is so expensive. Everything costs so much money. I can't blame anyone for not going to the movies. Just, you know, me personally, like I said a million times, this is my church. I love films. It's just like, you can almost like see a car crash happening and you can do nothing to intervene. And that's kind of what it feels like with original film right now. Thankfully, some people are still making original film and bringing it to the theaters. We just got to hope that they make money, find their audiences. It does feel like there is a certain shift, but just away from comic book films. You know, IP does still sell. But anyway, that's the end of my rant. Got kind of out in the weeds there. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's show of Let's Talk Physical Media. Even though we talked a little bit about, movies being released in theaters, I still hope you guys enjoyed this show. And if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like Ben Rondo and John Doe Juggalo, you can do that. Or you can even become a channel director like the legendary Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, Nicholas Head, Uncle V, and Kevin Kruger. Or you can even become a channel bankroll member like Mr. Smelly Potato. But of course, guys, if you got no money to throw away, don't worry about it at all. I just hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you